Well, my dad, of course, being Eddie Graham, he wrestled all over America. He met a crazy guy named Dory Funk Sr. back in the 50s in Amarillo. And Dory Sr. had a very distinct style and ran his territory in a very professional way and everything. And Dad learned a lot from him. At that point, my dad had only just been a wrestler. He left from Amarillo, Texas in 1959, went to New York City. A little bit of a culture shock from Amarillo, Texas to Manhattan, New York City, where he met Vince McMahon Sr. And Vince Sr. was always in a coat and tie and always very nice and polite and drove nice cars, and like it was from one end of the spectrum to the other, from Dory Sr. to Vince Sr. So he kind of took the best of both of them and put it together for himself, and literally kind of controlled wrestling around America for the next, and Japan, for the next 30 years. He was very, very well respected. He had, the wrestlers respected him, and the wrestlers and promoters had always fought. Oh, the promoter's not going to pay us. There was more people than that. There was this, and the promoters always said, oh, well, we can't. You know, the wrestlers, you know, they'll leave if they can, whatever. So he was like one of the first bonds between the wrestler and the promoter that kind of got everybody trusting and working with each other. He came up with a concept and put the deal together for the first NWA, the first National Wrestling Alliance meeting, where he had wrestlers and promoters in one room and said, okay, that you're in New York, and you're in California, and you're in Charlotte, and you're in Atlanta, and I'm in Florida, and as close as you could get to a mafia situation where people owned their territories and nobody crossed the lines. You know, you didn't go to somebody else's area and attempt to wrestle there. And because he was respected from the wrestling point of view and the promoter point of view, a lot of people listened to what he had to say and did what he had to say, and they knew that he wasn't going to run. Somebody today asked, well, how did wrestling from Florida get in Carolina and New Jersey and New York and those places? Well, back in the 80s with television really booming, everybody, all TV stations wanted wrestling. Well, most of the territories had TV on a station already. So they would try to get a show that was a good show, but they knew the promoter, after the show had been there for 6 or 8 months, wouldn't come in and try to run competition against them. They knew my dad wouldn't do that. So that's how our show was all over the place, because they knew they could trust him. He didn't want to go run Carolina. He didn't want to run New Jersey. He didn't want to go anyplace. He wanted to wrestle. And that's why he picked Florida, because there's water on 3 sides of it. He only had to defend one border. He just had to worry about Georgia. And he always kept the people in position in Georgia that he knew, so he could be assured that they wouldn't come into Florida. He just protected his area, and that's the way he was. But he was very, very powerful and very well respected in the wrestling industry.